Daniel Andrews has been caught lying again. It won't surprise you. Just as he was caught lying yesterday, he has been caught lying again today. Yesterday, he claimed that the curfew that was put in place because of medical advice. Remember, this is what he said at the time when you were not allowed to leave your home after 8 p.m. in Victoria. In fact, it was a crime.
Following that detailed advice, I've made a number of decisions and I want to run through those for you. From 8 p.m. tonight, a curfew will be implemented. So there will be a curfew across metropolitan Melbourne from 8 p.m. this evening.
But the chief medical officer, he called bullshit, just like the police called bullshit on him when he said that the reason that they needed the lockdowns, the reasons they needed the curfews, was because, remember, there were hundreds and hundreds of people who weren't isolating at home. Police ended up working out that most of them had an excuse. In fact, just 30 people ended up getting a fine. He lied about the reason to go into lockdown, he lied about the reason to have a curfew, and he lied about checking in with the medical experts.
Has the government ever introduced something without your advice or against your advice?
No, not against my advice. You know, the curfew came in as part of the state of disaster, for example. It wasn't a state of emergency requirement. So, you know, that was something that was introduced, but it wasn't something that I was against from a public health perspective.
But were you consulted on it or not?
Yeah, I was consulted on it, but it was a separate decision-making pathway.
Outrageous. So despite the fact that he has been caught in a bald-faced lie, remember the Premier of New South Wales, Barry O'Farrell, had to resign after he was caught misremembering a bottle of Grange. This bloke has been caught how many times? Lying about a curfew that affects millions of people who live in Melbourne. Yet because it's old mate Slippery Dan, he's able to say this today and get away with it.
Health advice, limit movement, righto? Police then say, these are hard rules to enforce. We reckon there's a bunch of people that are out and they shouldn't be out. Give us the clearest, simplest set of rules you can. And a curfew that says, unless you've got a lawful reason to be outside after 8, soon 9 p.m, out to 5 a.m, then you can't be, is much easier for Victoria Police.
Stop pretending that the 9 p.m. is a giant gift, by the way, while I do appreciate people being forced into their homes at a time this program starts. Of course, you're not doing it out of the kindness of your heart. You're doing it because of daylight saving, Dan. But what did he say when he justified the curfew the first time around? One more time, play it. The bloke is...
Following that detailed advice, I've made a number of decisions and I want to run through those for you. From 8 p.m. tonight, a curfew will be implemented. So there will be a curfew across metropolitan Melbourne from 8 p.m. this evening.
How many times do we have to show you this? Remember the ADF, oh no, there was no real offer of support. Yeah, there was offer of support. Hundreds of people weren't self-isolating. Police say, well, actually, they all had a reason. Medical advice is the reason you have a curfew, except the chief medical officer didn't give it. And now today we're supposed to believe, oh, no, it's because the police wanted it. I'm sorry? That's not what you said at the start. I repeat, premiers have lost their jobs over misremembering a bottle of wine. This bloke made decisions that led to hundreds of people dying and millions of people not being allowed to leave their home. And under the stupid roadmap to nowhere, there's going to have to be 5 cases a day for 2 weeks before you'll be able to go to the pub, a restaurant or a cafe. And if you own one of those operations, you can only have 10 people inside. There's a curfew in place, the same curfew that has no medical basis. Instead is a law enforcement tactic. That's martial law, my friends. That stays in place until the end of October. How many times can this bloke lie before accountability matters? Otherwise, the system is a joke. Now, I get it. 50% of Victorians tell the Essential poll they're happy with the state government. 99% of people will play human shields as they stand with Dan on Twitter. This bloke lies and lies and lies, and as a result of the poor decisions that his government have made, it's illegal to mow your mother or father's lawn. And eventually, when we get down to 30 or 40 cases, you'll be able to have one person, if you live by yourself, to come over. Literally, you'll have to pick your favourite child. And even then, you'll have to sit apparently 1.5 metres away and keep masks on at all times, which literally means if you live by yourself, the police will be able to knock on your door and double check if you have a visitor over and how far they're sitting away from you. This is crap.